Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. At the SHOT Show this year, in 2020, Sig announced the release of the P320 M18. Now, as many as you know, that last year they announced the P320 M17, which basically was allowing the commercial market to have, for all intents and purposes, the same pistol as the U.S. government M17, M18 pistols. Now, we go a little bit into the history of this. We go back to the modular handgun program. And this particular program was to have a replacement for the M9 pistol. Now, there were several American manufacturers and several foreign manufacturers who were part of the competition. The final two in the program were Sig, which had a 2-weapon solution, and Glock, which had a 1-weapon solution. On January 19th of 2017, the winner was announced, and it was Sig. And they have now had the contract for the M18 and M17 pistols. Now, this was an extremely controversial, I would say very controversial weapons program, pretty unorthodox compared to anything that I've ever seen. The issue really came down to the fact that we had a down select. We had all the other guns that were knocked out from all other manufacturers. We have our 2 finalists. Now, the normal process here would you would go through your Phase 2 testing. And the Phase 2 testing would be all the major testing, which would be the endurance testing, the destruction testing, it would be the environmental testing. And basically, this would tell you whether you had 2 weapons which were equal, 2 weapons that failed, or you have a clear winner. And that was not done. So, in essence, what that tells you is the Army did not know which was the better pistol because they didn't compete them. You have 2 pistols that we know met the minimum criteria. But in order to make that decision, you need to compete the 2 weapons against each other. Now, this is done for a couple reasons. Again, one, we have to know which one is the better pistol, which one meets the specifications. Some different results. Both pistols could fail. You start over from the new drawing board. Both pistols pass. Now you go to competitive bidding, or you have one clear winner. And from there you go to price. That is not what happened with the M17 program, or XM17 program. There was no Phase 2 testing. Immediately they went for the Sig. For the most part, I don't think anybody will argue it was based off of price because the price was drastically lower. And the unfortunate aspect of that was our soldiers, do we know if they got the better weapon or not? No, we don't. And I'm not saying they didn't get the better weapon. I'm just saying that the government never did their due diligence and tried both weapons to see which one was in fact the best. And I will say for Glock anyways, Glock, it was extremely unfortunate. It was actually very bad for them because of the fact that they spent the money, which is vast amounts of money, to prepare a weapon for this type of a competition. Extremely expensive. And they were cheated out of even a shot of going for it. With all the money that they paid to R&D, to testing, to design, to, when it comes down to it, not to even have the chance to compete. And that's unfortunate. And I think that this type of stuff is what's getting a lot of manufacturers who don't necessarily want to deal with the U.S. government any longer, because things are not being done the way they used to be. There was a design protocol, there was a testing protocol, and you either won or you didn't. That's not necessarily the way. And a lot of these smaller manufacturers who are doing this all on their own dime, all the R&D, they simply can't afford to put that kind of money and to not even know they're even going to have a shot. However, one of the things that you would learn through that Phase 2 testing was what's your durability, what's your replacement parts, if there's any shortcomings. Now, it's not unusual during any kind of a weapons testing or Phase 2 testing or any kind of testing like that where you do find some issues with weapons. It's pretty normal. And basically at that point is where you say, okay, this is a showstopper, or this is something that we can take care of within the normal course of product development. But there's things that would have been known ahead of time. And would have been taken into consideration. For instance, the Sig M17 has had its fair share of issues, trigger issues, barrel issues, and so forth, feeding issues, which would have come up in Phase 1, and then they could have determined whether that was a showstopper or not. But that was, so I guess I have had a very large problem with the conduct of the government on how this test was done. Now, that is not to say the government did not choose the better pistol or not. We just don't know. They were never competed against. Now, there was a 2-gun solution that was done by Sig. What we see on top here is the M17, and what we see below here is the M18. Now, this particular M17, this is their commemorative. They had offered a commemorative pistol. There's only a quantity of 5,000, which was very much like that of the U.S. government, but there was some changes which we're going to go into a little bit. And as you can see, what we have here is a full-size pistol with a full-size grip and a full-size slide on the M17, and a full-size grip and a compact slide on the M17. Now, two-gun solution. This is what started a little bit interesting. We're going to take the time to take a look at it at this point. Now, what we have here is the Glock 19X. The 19X was very similar to that of their offensive handgun weapons pistol they put in. Major difference being there is no manual safety. But if you take a look at the M18 and the Glock 19X, what you're seeing here is a identical concept. The barrel on the Glock is just a little bit longer. We're going to go over some more specs later on. You're looking at a full-size frame. So Glock's solution was one pistol for two. The Sig was two pistols for the competition. And eventually M17 and M18. So this is just rather interesting when you look at the two pistols. This concept is the same, which really makes you wonder what was the point of the M17. The M18 will do everything that the M17 will do, in just a more compact package. Now, look at the M17 and the M18. We're going to take a look at some of the difference in the statistics on these two pistols. Now, first off, obviously both calibers are 9x19 NATO. Weight of the M17 is 29.4 ounces. The M18 is 26 ounces. The overall length is 8 inches on the M17 with 7.2 inches on the M18. Barrel length, you're looking at 4.7 inches on the models on the M17 versus 3.9 on the M18. Height, both of them are 5.5 inches because they both use the same frame and the same magazine. Both pistols the operation is short recoil with a striker-fired system. Sights, you have a tritium sight, which you also have a removable plate to include an RMR type sight. Now, the slide stainless steel, well, as you see, we have two different finishes on here. The mil-spec one here is more of a flat dark earth, and you see the M18, P320 M18 is more of a coyote type color. The M17 and M18 come with two different magazines. Now, they come with two of these 21-round magazines on my left, and a 17-round magazine on the right. And you will also see that we have a 1913 rail on the bottom. And on the M17 pistol I have here, I have the LaserMax laser aiming module. Basically what we have here is a white light as well as an IR type laser. I want to take a quick look at the LaserMax Defense laser aiming module, which we see on here, which is part of the program. As part of the modular handgun system, we want to have a ability to have the optics, which would either be the iron sights, Trijicon sights, or an ARMO. Also, we want to have a laser aiming module type. These have been quite popular with SOCOM. Now, this particular one was designed specifically at the request and the specifications of the Army. And instead of it being a total laser aim module where you would have a white light, a IR, as well as a visible laser, you only have a white light as well as an IR. Now, this is a very, very durably built polymer sight. As you can see, we have three positions. We have on, off, and we have an intermittent as well. Now, I'm quite familiar with this company. LaserMax has been a leader in micro-diode technology going back to the early 90s, and I know that because I was there. I was hired by LaserMax when I was in college, and that was when they first started out in the early 90s when it was brought to life by Wilhood Walter, which is probably one of the most brilliant men I've ever known in my life. And where this company really stood out in the firearms industry, well, not just the firearms industry, the entire industry, was micro-diode technology, meaning micro or small diodes, and not to mention the micro circuitry that goes along with them. And when LaserMax put the laser sights inside of spring guides, it was very much revolutionary having that type of micro circuitry and have a diode that would take the recoil of a firearm. Now, as LaserMax would go on, the company's focus would change a little bit. They had always been into industrial-type lasers as well as firearms. They eventually broke off into two companies, LaserMax and LaserMax Defense. LaserMax Defense was it was totally geared towards military contracts of all different types of military laser systems, not just laser sights, but any number of them. So I was really not surprised to see LaserMax to win the contract for this. But it's an extremely well-made sight. It does exactly what they asked for. Now, for as far as civilians are concerned, when they want to buy these, it's very difficult. They're not going to be able to get the exact same version as the U.S. military due to the fact that there's regulations on what nanometer you can have in IR just for eye safety. However, LaserMax does produce one of these for commercial use, and I expect to see that available in a more distant future. You know, right now there's major contracts. Right now they're having to provide these for the U.S. government because the U.S. government, U.S. military, U.S. Army in particular, is utilizing night vision on for the average soldier. It's no longer just just squad leaders or just your higher echelon or special forces. You're seeing IR ports being used on rifles and issue to the masses of night vision. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about this because this is a really neat gadget, and it certainly does make this a modular, more of a modular pistol. To date, there's been over 1 million M18 pistols produced. Now, for as far as the U.S. government was concerned, the distribution, there was the original procurement number is supposed to be 421,000 in total. With 195,000 going to the Army for the M17 pistol, 130,000 mixture of M17 and M18 going to the Air Force, 61,000 going to the Navy, which is specifically M18, as well as the Marine Corps, who just adopted the M18 as well for 35,000. I do expect it's going to take quite some time for the M17 M18 pistol to completely replace the M9 Beretta, because you're looking at quite a few pistols. However, Sig has done definitely a good job of getting guns out there. As we previously spoke about the commercial release of the P320 M17 pistol. Now, again, there's always interest in the U.S. government pistol. And if you look at other companies over the years, Beretta, it took them quite some time, but they finally released an M9 Special Edition, which was very, very similar pistol to the M9 service pistol. However, there was some changes that would allow the factory and even law enforcement to differentiate between a U.S. government gun versus a commercial firearm. For instance, the case of the Beretta, you are missing a lot of the proof marks for the PM, magnetic particle, and proof testing, which you would find on the slide and on the locking block and on the barrel. That was missing. You would see some of the earlier guns which had the part numbers on the parts, but you would see a C to differentiate them from the regular parts, and eventually they will get rid of the part numbered hammers and barrels and stuff altogether. So there's always something that was done just to differentiate between the two. Now, when Sig came out with the P320 M17, they also had to make some changes. Now, although this pistol here is their commemorative, this is very, very close to the first run of pistols that came out for the U.S. government. Now, you'll see that we do have the Sig Sauer M17. You do have a cage code. You do have a part number and assembly number. You have the original tan color fire control components. So you do have a unique serial number as well. With the release of the P320 M17, there were some changes that were made that were commercial. Now for the military commemorative, which is the one you see here, again, you see missing numbers, you see some missing proof codes. So there is certainly a way that you would be able to notice the difference between this commemorative versus a U.S. government M17. Now the P320, on the other hand, this one took it many, many steps further. It decreased the cost. They were only granted such a number of 5,000 of the commemoratives to make. So their traditional pistol and their regular production pistol, that would be the M17, would be based off of the P320. Now, when you look at the marks, we're going to take a look now at the M18, because this is a perfect example of the M17 is basically the exact same thing, with just the difference is it's the 17 instead of the 18. Now, you'll see with the marks, instead of it being Sig Sauer M18, we have the Sig Sauer P320 M18. We do have a different color slide. And now the black fire control groups that you see on here, this is correct now. The military has gotten rid of the tan in favor for the black. The markings on the barrel are totally different. You do not have the part number or the cage codes. You have a totally different serial number range outside of not only the commemorative as well as the U.S. government. You are also, you'll see in the picture right here, notice that the U.S. government guns all have a P mark on the left side of the barrel, which indicates high pressure proof test, magnetic particle, and proof testing. That is omitted from all of these pistols as well. So they were made so you could get as close as you could get without the Sig having to violate any of their their contracts with the government for as far as markings and keeping the guns different. Now, when the P320 M18 came out, in 2017, the MSRP on the P320 M17 was $600. Now, when you look at the commemorative, you're looking at a lot more. You're looking at more along the lines of $1,300. It was significantly more expensive because it was a lot more unique. Now, the MSRP on the commercial was about around $1,300. Again, there was a 5,000 limit on the gun that were being produced. And you did have, again, a majority of the actual markings on it, with the exception of the barrel markings, the serial number, and the proof marks. So now comes 2020 with the introduction of the M18. Now, as I previously stated, the M18 has seen a lot of interest in the Air Force and the Marine Corps and the Navy. And as I said, when you compare the M18 to the M17, this is my personal opinion. I don't see the reason for the M17 pistol. There's literally nothing that the M17 pistol is going to be able to do that the M18 can't. Quite frankly, I think the government should have gone with a one pistol system because they're just not that different. And looking at what the M18 or P320 M18 comes with, you can see we come with 3 magazines. We have 2 of the 21-shot magazines and 1 of the 17-shot magazines. We have our little M18 patch. This is also the same for the M17, P320 M17. And we also have a P320 series operator's manual. And we have our trusty U.S. Army P320 M18 rubber band. Just due to the fact that we have access to a M17 commemorative pistol, I just want to show the difference in the packaging. Now, the way this comes, and by the way, it does not come with the Laser Max defense module. This is something that's completely separate, so this does not come with it. Like the commercial, you have 2 of the 21-shot magazine and 1 of the 17. You also have an M17 armor's manual compared to a standard production Sig P320 manual. Now, when you look at this cardboard box, you may say, well, how cheap? You're selling me a $1,300 gun or so with a cheap cardboard box. No. This is the actual box that the government guns are shipped in. So when they went on to sell the commemorative version, they gave you as close as they could to everything as the U.S. government as they could, which included this cardboard box with this foam insert with the magazines, with the way the packaging was done. So I want to go over this thing a little bit more in detail when we'll take it apart. Now, those of you who've seen the P320 videos and the other videos I've done on the M17 program or the M17 pistol, this information is sort of a duplicate, but we're going to go over it again with the M18. Again, we have the magazines. Now we have a slide stop that's ambidextrous, slide catch, lock it to the rear. Now we also have ambidextrous safety. Now, this can be bought with or without the safety on the commercial market. However, if you want to stay true to the U.S. government, you are going to have the manual safety. If you look here, we have tritium sights, and we have a removable plate on here for the RMO. Now, some more of the neater details on here is you do have a loaded cartridge indicator. If there's a round in the chamber, the loaded cartridge indicator will stick up like so. Now, you'll be able to feel that, and you'll be able to see it. So this is sort of a positive way of knowing whether the gun's loaded or not. However, this is also a part that has been known to break, so it's certainly not a fail-safe, but on a proper pistol, it's in functional and in serviceable condition, you will have this. So you have your extractor, and you have the small frame, which is the exact same in length and height, but what you have is a shorter slide on the M18 versus the M17, 1913 rail. Disassembly. We're going to drop down on the disassembling latch lever. Hit your slide release, pull it forward. Now, you do have a embedded recoil spring, which is better for longevity, reliability, durability, and softer recoil. You have your standard barrel Browning linkless. And as again, we previously stated, the markings on the barrel are quite different from that of the U.S. government models. Now, looking at the slide, you will see we do have a firing pin block. It is striker fired. Stainless steel slide, PVD finished. And again, this is more referred to as a coyote tan versus the flat dark earth as the military pistols. Now, looking at the frame, what makes this pistol rather interesting, and some people claim they think this is the reason why this won the government contract, which it was not. Both the Glock pistol and the Sig pistol met the modularity requirements. This was just a different method that Sig approached. Now, the chassis is removable. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull upward and out on the disassembling lever. Pull right out, and we're going to lift upward, and we're going to lift out. So we have a frame. Now, this particular frame, again, is the compact. You can go with various different sizes, small, medium, and large. The longer grip, the shorter grip, different colors. The actual serialized component is on the trigger module. So this was just this is one of the things that Sig had done for their version. And again, this was not a requirement. It was not the final decision. This was not what made this pistol win over the other. Both pistols met the the modular requirements. That's why they were the 2 finalists. So for reinstallation, we drop back in like so. Make sure we slide this all the way to the rear. Reinsert the disassembly latch release lever. According to Sig marketing and you know in Sig, that's one of the benefits of this pistol is if the frame was to break, frame was to crack, frame was to be damaged, you'd be able to swap it out without having to have a new serial number or replace the entire firearm. So for reassembly, drop your barrel right in. Now you have a flat on this edge versus the original P320 where it was just round. And the M17 has it round. So you have to make sure that you have that flat as a flat upon reassembly. So as I previously stated, you know, when I first started shooting the P320s, I don't know if I cared for them too much. You know, I guess I was too used to the M9. And of course, I'm very much used to the Glock trigger. However, I have to say, as time has gone on, and I've shot a lot of rounds out of the P320, the M17, M18 versions, and we're talking thousands of rounds. The initial P320, when I got that, I think we did well over 5,000 rounds with the original P320. And then once the introduction of the P320 M17, that was in another at least 2,000 to 3,000 rounds. And in that time period, I grew to like it. I grew to appreciate the trigger. Shot very, very well with it. And even Mrs. Small Arms Solutions, when she would go out and she would shoot with me, she was quite fond of the P320. She shot very well with it. She liked the trigger on it. So the pistol started to really grow on me. So by the time that this one came out, I was very well used to the P320 series, and I started to shoot incredibly well with it. Very fast follow-up shots, the way the trigger was. The one thing I did notice with it is when you start firing a lot of rounds out of these, say you fire, 7, 8, 9, 10 magazines, and the pistol does heat up, the trigger gets hot. That is probably the only downfall I really saw during my shooting was when I was firing a rather large volume of rounds, my trigger figure did get burned a little bit. So it just does conduct heat. So taking the P320 M18 out to the range, we use several different kinds of ammunition. Now, a vast majority of the ammunition that I used is Sig. Over the last several years, as you may or may not know, Sig has purchased their own ammunition manufacturing facility. And they have produced some of the best ammunition that I have used. And they've also got some very good offerings that many companies do not have. Now, the first round, as you see, M17, of course. Now, the M17, the bottom box you see here is a 9mm NATO. And a 9mm NATO is a plus P according to SAMI specifications. So you're looking at 124 grain full metal jacket, bullet traveling at around 1180 feet a second, which is plus P. So this would be the same as the U.S. M882 ball ammunition. So it's a good hot ammunition. It's what the military guns are designed for. And those of you who have the you have the M17 commemoratives, those guns are set up for plus P ball ammunition. They don't come with a separate recoil spring. They are designed specifically for the higher pressure ammunition. Many of these guns that you see, the military versions versus the commercial versions, you'll see some material taken out of the slide to decrease the weight, and you have a decrease in the recoil spring, and that's to allow it to work with some of the less lighter pressure commercial types of ammunition. On top here, we have a P320 hollow point. It's a 124 grain jacketed hollow point plus P. Another excellent round, an excellent defensive round. Now, for standard shooting, we have the Elite Performance ammunition. I've used them in both 124, 115 grain, and 147 grain. The 147 grain subsonic, I use that quite a bit with suppressors. Very good, very accurate ammunition. Now, for accuracy, we have the Elite Match jacketed hollow point. So you wonder why they would have a match hollow point versus the standard full metal jacket. I don't know, but whatever they do with it, it does work. The accuracy is phenomenal with the Elite Match ammunition. And then for a carry load, you have the V-Crown. Now, the M17 is a V-Crown jacketed hollow point as well. And you have the V-Crown for 9mm. You have 115, you have 124, and 147 grain ammunition. So over the years, I've used this ammunition extensively, and not just in these calibers as well. Sig has done an excellent job with ammunition. They've done an excellent job with additional calibers, and as well as with the hollow points and hunting ammunition. Now, some of the other ammunition I tested this with was the Winchester 9mm NATO, which again will be very similar to the M17, and some Federal American Eagle, and some Remington UMC, just for the heck of it to see for reliability. And of all the rounds that were fired, not a single malfunction. It did not have any problems with hollow points or any of the different loads that it was put through. Now, the accuracy at 15 yards was excellent. We were looking at probably just under 2 inches with 21 rounds. And you certainly cannot argue with that for a combat pistol. Now, a lot of people like to think about, well, you judge a gun's reliability and its worth off of its group size. You have to understand these are combat pistols. These are not match-grade pistols. The whole purpose of a combat pistol is to poke holes in people so they bleed out. That is the whole purpose of it. It is not to get a half-inch group at 25 yards. So this does exactly what it's supposed to do, and the accuracy is exceptional. Now, in more recent days, there's been another pistol that's been introduced. This was also limited numbers. It was basically the U.S. government guns that were traded back into Sig for newer ones. And according to Sig, the only difference is the color of the fire control group, or the safeties, is black. Now, these are relatively expensive, around $900 plus. They're also very limited numbers. Conditions vary greatly, from very nice to very well used to even damaged. So that's interesting to take a look at those to compare the government markings versus the commercial. In the past decade, Sig has really changed its company's focus and has become one of the largest defense contractors in the United States. For as far as innovation, I don't think there's any companies out there that can even compete with Sig in bringing out not only new firearms, but ammunition, optics, sound suppressors, ammunition. They have come up with a complete line of basically a one-shop stop for any law enforcement or military who wants to purchase any kind of products that will provide them with firearms, optics, and ammunition. If you look at the SOCOM contracts that Sig now has, you're looking at the MPX, MCX, not to mention the new belt-fed 338 Norma Mag belt-fed machine gun, which was shown at SHOT Show this year. So the companies continue to progress. It's continuing to offer more new models every year than any other company I pretty much have seen out there today. The quality control has certainly gone up for especially what they're doing. They're not sacrificing innovation whatsoever. You're seeing new models. We will continue to watch and see how the Model P320 evolves. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, and even better, share. Thank you.